Hello and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Mutilus on Discord.
This is Parker, go by One Who Busts on Discord.
This is Aaron. I go by Treffenwood on Discord.
Good job, Parker. You did much better than last time.
Mm-hmm. First time.
Did you listen to the podcast last week?
Oh yeah.
Good. Good. Quick announcements. As always, links in the show notes. Hopefully, I'll be able to put up some new stuff on the Etsy store soon. I'm working on getting some new printers up and running. But anyway, Parker.
We got news part 2.
News part 2.
Hey,
News!
Yes. News!
So, if you were following along, last time we paused with news because we didn't get to a very famous new character that's going to come into the game that Brandon and I are super excited to really dive into. And so we had news part 2, but then over the course of this last week, it grew because we have more news part 2. So we're actually going to wait to talk about our most excitable thing to the very end. We're going to talk about some of the things that came out this week first. So the first one is The Abomination. Emil Blonsky, who, by the way, if you guys follow the She-Hulk show, he is so much more or the Hulk movie. He's so much more amazing in the MCU than he ever has been in the Marvel universe. In the Marvel universe, he's such a dumb, bland, He is one of the most flat characters. He's just so dumb.
Yeah.
But in the Marvel universe, in the MCU, he is so interesting.
I had no idea, because again, I don't read the comics, so I couldn't have told you on my life who Abomination's alter ego was.
Yeah.
But I think it was really well done in the Hulk movie to make a villain for him that was semi-believable.
Yeah. And then also, the way he kind of has this interesting redemption-style arc in She-Hulk, it works great.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to read Abomination's card. Are we excited for the Abomination? What are we excited for about the Abomination?
I want to hear Aaron's take, because we've talked about this around the store already.
I don't have any takes.
No takes. All right.
I'll start.
Whoa.
You ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, I'll start. I do think he's really interesting as a... He's not exactly he's not like a mini Hulk, because a lot of people are kind of saying immediately mini Hulk. I think he's a alternate kind of Hulk type character. He's got a lot of the same things, like the high base dice, a big throw, although it's not character, so he's not a controller.
Mm-hmm.
He does have some, power mitigation effects, like the poison, but that's not real. It's not going to do probably enough to be a controller. So he's much more of a offensive character.
The way I looked at him is he's just a slower Rhino, is really what he is to me.
Interesting.
He hits harder.
He's
5 points.
I actually kind of felt like he's if Omega Red stood on top of Black Dwarf's shoulders, if Black Dwarf and Omega Red had a baby that was just slightly bigger than both.
But he doesn't have in my opinion, Omega Red's best thing is the huge board manipulation he brings to the table.
Right, and the healing. He doesn't have the healing, so.
But yeah, being able to throw train long is awesome. Like anybody who's ever had long train throw, that's great. And that's kind of, in my opinion, what Rhino does. Is he, in addition to having the broken Tactus card, he's kind of just a high-tempo piece that throws size 4s. And so you're giving up some of the tempo for just better average damage.
I think in a lot of ways, and we've talked about this before when we discussed the bear, his spender, if you're looking at a package of power for effects, if you get the wild on Gamma Bomb, which is not as good as the bear because the bear just gets to throw you, but if you get the wild on Gamma Bomb before damage is dealt, you get to throw plus the 8 dice plus the place, all these things together is so worth 4 power, right? It's insanely worth 4 power. My
favorite is that you have a 4-cost spender on a 5-point model, and it only applies poison if it does damage.
Yeah.
Really? You could just be poison?
Yeah, that is a strange addendum
what?
there. Yeah.
It's
it does all these other really cool things, and then that one is just kind of also blink poison.
Yeah, it's the most useless line of text on any card I've seen.
Yeah. But no, I think he's going to work well in a lot of places, actually. I think a lot of people are going to reach for him. I think he'll be tried in a bunch of stuff. I am actually really unsure where he's going to end up. Criminals makes some sense, I guess. But Cabal maybe makes some sense. But he's never really had an affiliation other than just Hulk's bad guy. So I'm not sure where he's going to show up in the game. But
I assume we're going to get an Agents of Smash affiliation. But I guess we couldn't. There's just so many of them now.
There's a bunch. Aaron, where are you going to put him first?
In the shoebox next to his models that he actually plays.
I don't have any plans to buy him right now, so I haven't theory crafted a bunch where I would put a model I'm not getting. So I am immediately turned off a little bit by the lack of character throws. I think it's a direction AMG is taking, and that's a direction they should have taken a long time ago. But since they already designed a lot of characters with character throws, I'll just play those instead.
Mm-hmm.
Unless I just want to sit down, roll dice, and have fun. So it depends what kind of games we're talking about. But I don't like conditional throws. I just want it to happen. And if I'm paying 5 points for a model, he either needs to be super good at killing people or controlling people. And I think he does too much of both to ever be what I'm going to grasp for in a competitive list.
Too much, meaning not. I'm a little confused.
Yes, he's too spread out.
Oh,
okay.
So
people are saying he's mini Hulk, and that is the absolute worst analogy you could ever make.
Yeah.
Like, what is Hulk without a size 4 character throw? Definitely not Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, well, that's the only thing he's missing. Well, it doesn't matter. That's all that defines Hulk. So compare him to something else.
So how do you value a 7 dice builder on a 5-point model? Sorry, a 7 dice gainer on a 5-point model.
Yeah, it's only a gainer.
Yeah, the gainer is the problem.
Well, I mean,
right?
that's good and bad. The fact that I can guarantee if I take 2 attack actions, I'll have 2 more power. That's sometimes good, but rarely in this situation when you have a 7 dice builder, is that all you're thinking about?
I don't... Hold on 1 second. The fact that it's range 2 is a significant downer.
Mm-hmm. He has 0 movement economy, too.
Yep.
0 action.
Yep.
So the combination of needing to be range 2 and no action economy, no thanks. Again, there's other reasons to take him, right? I'm not saying he is a actively bad model, but I'm saying if I'm looking at the 5 threats that I have available, he needs to do something besides not die.
I'm just thinking his action or his damage economy is not awful. I don't know that if it's in line with the best 5-pointers in the game, though. Because I'm just thinking, if you're putting out 2 7 dice attacks, let's say they're into different people, you poison them off of those attacks, which isn't unbelievable to think. Then you radiation zone to do an auto 2 points of damage, and then you still have a long size 4 throw. That's a decent amount of damage output.
How are you getting the power? Yeah.
No, well, I mean, if you just do the math, if you don't spend any on 1, so I double move on 1, turn 2, I activate, I double tap with my gainer, I guaranteed have 6 power. As long as I didn't spend any to that point, even if you didn't get attacked. You have 6.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think that's good, I'm just saying. Like, the fact that your turn 1 is a scratch is rough. Like, really rough. But, like, you compare him to, like, the other tanky models, and, like, Juggernaut obviously has a lot of other value he brings, but he's definitely out-damaging the shit out of Jugs.
Yeah. I mean, you bring Jugs for mobility / survivability, period.
Agreed.
I don't know what Abomination is trying to do. Yeah.
He's good at standing on Researcher, which just got restricted. But...
Yeah, he's got a good attack, dice-wise anyway. I almost want to say he's 5-point Lizard, right? But...
I think Lizard's actually tougher than he is.
If Lizard had teeth.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, he doesn't have the healing factor. And maybe I just draw that correlation because he has no action economy and
he's not terrible. He's got tools, but I think, like you said, he's got too much damage and not enough anything else. And the problem with that being that there's people with more damage than him, I think.
Sure, but like with Gamma Mutated Hide, he's basically saying you don't ever want to attack me, just like Lizard. Like, yes, throw Lizard away and just never bother him. So Abomination, if you do what you were talking about, which is, he's going to have a throw / radiation zone turn once in the entire game, unless your opponent decides to go into him. In which case, he's going to get power for damage and extra power for Gamma Mutated. So now you're actually turning Abomination on. Like, if I just ignore your Abomination, like, how are you going to get 5 threats worth of value out of him?
No, I agree. That's what I was like. If he just had Taunt, I think his kit makes sense. But right now, it just seems like he's missing something.
Speaking of something he's missing, maybe his Technics card will give it to him?
Surely.
First one is Gamma Burst. I just feel like it's really expensive for his kit, but otherwise it's good. For the reasons
Enemy
we just said.
characters with poison within 2 are pushed away medium and suffer damage. So the auto push medium is pretty cute, but it being a cost 3 card and requires them to have poison, probably has uses, but is again like probably not worth the price of it. No one's playing Abomination, so it doesn't really matter. But if you were playing Abomination and wanted to play board control somehow, this was a good card.
So here is a really cute team up card. Oh, I'm sorry, Aaron. Did you want
Nope.
to talk all about
Nope, we're
Gamma Burst? I'll let you give it a trash scale. Give it a trash scale, Aaron.
good. Gamma Burst is a -3.
So the next card is why I think they're the only place I could ever see him getting played at the moment.
Yeah. So you will do as I say, monster. I really, really, really like this from a team up card standpoint. They're printing a lot of these. This one is really cool. I think it's interesting. Just for my edification, because the sentence is one of those terrible wording. I'm 99.9% sure George Tartleton has to spend 5 power, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Just making sure. So if that's true, what happens?
Okay, so we're not reading it. All right, we'll continue.
No, I'm not.
No, you're
I'm
fine.
not,
I'm just confirming. The pacing. I thought I was waiting on you to read it.
No, I am not reading the cards.
Through me. Gotcha.
But
that's fine.
I really like this because I love playing both the Modocs. I really like them. I'm
Yeah.
big Modocs fans, so it could happen.
So I think specifically he could work with Modoc 2, and that's primarily just so you can shunt attacks to him.
Yeah.
Because giving you the pseudo bodyguard. Also, Red Skull 1 has the pushing attacks thing where he can shove stuff onto people. He also has a way for him to gain more power, and he also has a placement effect for him. I actually think Red Skull 1 is the perfect leader for Abomination. You're getting the power, you're getting the mobility, you're getting, potentially, if he's in Cabal when he comes out, the ability to activate twice. Like, he's got a lot of cool stuff. And this tactics card is conveniently fun. I don't know if it's amazing, because it costs 5 mainly. But throwing a size 4 into people is cute. Unfortunately, Abomination takes damage from it, because they didn't put that in. It doesn't say he doesn't.
He does gain an extra power for it, so he'd gain 2 power.
No, he doesn't.
Oh, it's not an enemy effect.
His damage reduction only affects enemy attacks, and the extra power gain is from enemy attacks. Yeah. No, I noticed that already, so I was like, yeah, I don't know.
The card is cute, but
the card's very cute.
Like, Fastball Special is so much better, I think.
Way better than this card. Yeah, because it also reduces their dodge dice.
Yeah. Like, Fastball Special is insanely better than this card. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's just because he's a size 4 and they're super scared of that, but... because throwing the equivalent of a size 3, but also reducing their defense dice. And staggering them when they get
giving them bleed.
Was it bleed? Yeah.
Yeah, the Loki one is stagger.
Stagger is a Loki. Yeah, I feel like this is not... I feel like they're really scared of making this really good because they think giving Abomination out of activation movement is somehow broken, but I don't see that.
Although, the real problem I see is, in what world is MODOK spending 5 power ever make sense?
Yeah.
He's so good with power.
Yeah, both of them can spend power, yeah, so why... Aaron, trash scale me.
-7.
I was going to say, I will not take anything lower than -5, but you did it. Great job. Or so anything higher than -5.
I'm definitely going to play some Hydra/Cabal lists with Abomination and Omega Red, though. So
I think specifically Omega Red, Abomination, Hydra could be really funny. I don't know if it works.
So what if you were playing Red Skull, Omega Red, Abomination, and MODOK in just a straight Cabal origin list? Just be like, what year is it? We've just added Abomination, and it's just a pile of old ass models.
Yeah, Power Crypt. All right, let's talk about some characters that we've had for a little while, but I don't think we've ever talked about in this cast. The Wrecking Crew. Finally,
it's Wrecking time.
Finally, 4 characters, Marvel cornerstones. I'm really excited to know about these 4 characters, specifically these 4.
I love how tiny their alter egos are written, so they'll fit.
So, all kidding aside, the Wrecking Crew is always fun in the Marvel Universe. They're the punching bags, right? They need something on panel 4 of the comic for the,
Well, there's that typical, they have to open up on a scene of combat where the hero is triumphing. They have to draw something there, and that's the Wrecking Crew.
Guess who's there? It's the Wrecking Crew, yep. So
can't remember what it was in War Machine. It was like a Warpwolf Stalker was always the thing being killed in the background.
Yeah. So I feel like he's, a really souped up version of Crystal, but very souped up. Got a lot of really cool stuff.
So remind me, are they on a large base or a? They are, aren't they? They're yeah.
Looks like it.
Okay, so their short move isn't as bad as it could otherwise be.
Well, Parker, you said they're like crystals, so they're a long, large. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly how I would model them.
That's how I would play them.
Yeah.
Okay, so just looking at their card, they still get the normal 2 actions, even though there's like 1,000 of them, right?
No,
Yeah.
well, they can get extra.
Okay, how do they get extra? Explain it.
Let's take them down, boys. For 3 costs, it's exactly Crystal's thing.
It's Crystal.
They can do it. They can do an attack that they haven't chosen yet. The activation. So it's precisely Crystal's ability.
And they don't have a spender.
Also, they can push themselves medium with Bulldoze, which is precisely Juggernaut's ability. So they can give themselves kind of 4 actions.
It's more like Stampede, but yeah.
Right. So it's Bulldoze. Let's take Bulldoze, 2 attacks, and then let's take them down, boys.
And that's 6 power. They get 2 normally. They don't have a spender though, so they'll probably accumulate a lot of power over the game.
No, they're not going to.
Because they're spending Bulldoze and let's take them down constantly, right?
No.
Sure, that's true. But I'm just saying, like,
how do they gain power?
Where you can't, they take damage, right?
Wow. Again,
they have a gainer, and they take damage. They get 2 a turn.
All their abilities.
Yeah, I mean they're just their own mechanics will get them
at least
their extra attack, and they'll net 1 power, 2 power. No, just 1 power.
Just 1 power.
They'll net 1 power a turn, just doing their attacks, and then if they take any damage. So Bulldoze will probably be off the table unless they're taking damage.
It all depends on how many people they're going to get underneath Wrecking Bar Fling, because their middle attack does not gain power.
Right. Well, I'm just thinking if you do the range 3 gainer, the basic one, you're getting 1, so that means your power up plus that is enough to trigger the extra attack. Then you do a Wrecking Bar Fling with your extra attack, which is a beam 4 that is a gainer, so you could potentially get multiple power off of that one. But just assuming you get the 1, you're at +1. Then you could just do either of those again. So you're actually netting 2 a turn if you're actually hitting with 3 attacks. And if your beam is hitting 2 people, you're getting even more.
Mm-hmm. I think.
So, yeah, I could see it being okay.
So I think the standard play pattern is going to be the range 3. So I think he moves. He range 3. He beams with the superpower and is done. So it's like having a charge that costs 3.
But it's even better, right? Because it's the triggers after the attack, so you don't have to have the 3rd power until the first attack is over.
Right. Yeah. No, it's different. I wasn't saying it bad. I'm just saying effectively it can be seen as a 3-cost charge for action economy. Or, if they has all the power in the world, he can slide and then attack 3 times.
This Wrecking Bar Fling actually seems pretty good.
It's situationally cool.
Well, I mean, even just as a 4-die Mystic Beam, it's not terrible, but also it's a gainer and it can stagger?
No, if they're staggered, it throws. So they're all about comboing.
Oh, gotcha.
So the idea is the Instructable can stun, the Pile Driver can stagger if they're stunned, and then the Wrecking Bar Fling throws if they're staggered. So literally, they're comboing off each other. As long as you get the hit wild, then the Wrecking Bar Fling will get him.
So if you just activate Black Cat first, then you can just throw 2 people.
They're almost 100% chance to be criminals, right? So it's like
they don't need to be, but yeah.
I think they absolutely are, right?
I think these guys are going to get played. These guys seem pretty cool.
I think they are going to get played. I actually like them. I've eyeballed Crystal a lot in things like Shadowlands Daredevils. If they're in the affiliation, which they are, that's a lot of potential rerolls on all those attacks you're making pretty constantly. I feel like it's worth 4 points instead of 3. They're like a rapid fire character, but they might get more if they're running downhill than a bunch of.
Their attack range is pretty crazy too, because they can push medium on a large and then shoot at range 4.
Yeah, a beam 4 is nice, and they're giving out a lot of valuable stuff. Stun, then stagger, consistently, fairly consistently. That feels great.
I'm a little less excited than you two. I just look at the no dice mods, 4 damage or 4 dice on the beam is actively worse than Crystal.
That's true. If they're not,
because she doesn't have that native reroll, sure.
Yeah, if they're not eating the is they're not eating any terrain and it doesn't bump up. And of course, you can't eat terrain all the time. It's diminishing returns, right?
I don't disagree with you guys. I think he's a fine character. I think he'll see play. I'm just not.
Yeah, I'm not like super stoked,
Yeah.
but I just think, considering how stupid these people are supposed to be, I think they actually look fun to play.
I'll give you that.
He does.
Right.
They do get an extra power turn, so anybody who can give them up power or make them cheaper by 1, like, can turn them on early too. So you might bulldoze early. There are ways to make them tempo. So their first card is the Mystic Menace. Just a really simple card. I like it a lot. I don't know why your opponent would give it to you and oblige you it, or just kill you, because they have nothing really defensive except some okay.
Yeah, because the fact that it doesn't work while dazed is pretty booty.
Yeah, like it's pretty darn easy to avoid or just kill them because they are just 6 health, right? That's it.
Well, so I guess one cute thing is that it's if they end a movement, not like their move action. So if you had something that pushed people, like an AoE push effect, it would trigger on everybody.
I mean, even their throw, if the model's backstopped, they could throw and within 2 and trigger it themselves.
Yeah. Like if you just like, oh, I'm going to play Mystic Menace in the power phase, and let's say you had them in a web warrior list, and it's just like, cool, activate Gwen, she web lines 4 times, your list is hexed. And you're like, what?
Sure.
Not that will ever happen. I'm just
right. This card's a negative 8.
7, 8, yeah.
You should not competitively take this card.
No.
Ever.
Okay. Maybe the best card we've talked about today.
Stronger Together?
Yeah, let's talk about it.
Okay. I think this is fine. I don't think this is amazing. Maybe the strongest one yet today? Sure.
Yeah, no, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I'll give it that maybe.
Well, how about this? I think this is something that will actually increase the likelihood of seeing them played, because the card is better than the model.
Okay.
I don't think it's A tier. I just think it's like, okay, this is an effect that is worth noting.
Right. Every other character in the game that has a card that does something like this gets played almost because of the card. So yeah.
I'll give you a spoiler. My trash rating on this card is a 0.
Yeah, that makes it the highest rated card so far.
Sure. This is
I
a
actually
card
was
that
going.
everyone's going to try and quickly take out of their 10 when they realize it's not worth it.
Yeah.
Well, let's just look at it this way. Okay, so it's choose a character size 4 or less within 4, and then you throw them a distance based on how many times you attack that model. Now, keep in mind that one of their attacks that they're going to use twice is a beam. So you could have attacked them those times and also done other stuff.
Sure.
But being able to throw a size 4 character long is very relevant, in my opinion. Especially if you're throwing that person at range 4.
Yes. Again, this is not as hard to set up as your Dream Gwen scenario. But I first of all have to attack a model 3 times. That model then has to be alive. Easy. I have to have
That's very easy.
6 power in order to pay for both the extra attack and now the card that I have. I had to have not.
Covered, as part of that, they gained 3 power during the turn. So they're already neutral. So you just had to start with 3 power. That's easy.
Again, I think the card is fine. I think it can be used. There will be times when it will be amazing, and there will be times when you don't play this at all during the entire course of the game. And I want my cards to be better than that.
I'd say the biggest catch, obviously, being that it's unlike Do You Know Who I Am? It's only really usable during their activation. And so that's definitely a downside.
I wish Do You Know Who I Am went to activation only. Like the whole out of activation is just a gimmick.
That's fair.
It would still be great and taken.
I think in hindsight, they would have probably decided that had they seen it played a lot.
Yeah.
There is one thing that I really do like about this card, and I do not know if that makes it a win more card or just a great, make sure it's finished card. There is a really feasible scenario in which you take a character, you do 3 attacks and throw the same character twice, and if it's a size 4 character, like that, you could be dazing so many characters. The ceiling of damage for this card plus a Wrecking Crew activation with Let's Take 'Em Down Boys is so high, it's really kind of crazy. I think it's insane. So I don't know if that makes this what I think the reason why I agree with your 0 though, Aaron, is I think people who see that kind of turn out of them, they're not going to go, oh, but what I really want to do is throw one more time for a tactic slot. That's not, I think, what will be. But maybe it is. Maybe we're both wrong, and people will play it and be like, yeah, I wanted a Daze 2 characters and make sure this guy was thrown into a 3rd character, range 4 away. Like, that's possible.
I think the thing I'm most excited to do with Wrecking Crew is play them with Magneto, because if you can trigger Mag's leadership at some point, you give them the 3rd power they need, and then they can just immediately slide, which is then giving more power and triggering more effects for other people. And so it's just another model that can turn people on the first turn. So right now, Jugs is pretty much that only model for them.
Yeah, I think they're a budget option for a lot of interesting things. I think you'll see them.
All right, are we ready for the meat and potatoes?
All right, let's do it. The character that Brandon and I are very excited about. I think I'm going to keep this character and paint him myself because he's even easier than Apocalypse.
Only one color on this guy.
One color. I think I can spray paint
Parker. Parker, I'm concerned that you will get to the point where you actually go to paint it and you realize that you can't even paint one color.
How do I do one color on Mephisto, Lord of Temptation? I did not. This is the character that I was so not excited at all about being added to the game because I've read so many Mephisto comics. I've never been that excited about his character. But
yeah, he's not well portrayed.
I feel like they knocked him out of the park in this character. I love his concepts so much.
I love that his attack power is relevant.
Explain, what do you mean?
The power or the might of his attacks.
As opposed to another character, how?
No, it's just in a line. He conveniently has 3 of them. They're all power 6.
Oh, that's what you meant. You're saying like visually on purpose because they're all 6.
I think that was on purpose.
Oh, 100% it was. Yes.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand what you meant by power.
Yeah.
Like the number of dice he rolled for each attack is
strength of the attack. Yeah.
Yes, got it. I like it. You're right. That is fun.
Aaron, I assume you've read this guy?
You mean the card or the comics?
The card.
Yeah.
We know how you feel about the comics with this guy.
Yeah, I would never ask you that. Okay. Aaron, what do you think? What do you find any parts of his kit very interesting or good? Or
I think the Devil's Deal token is Chef's Kiss.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is straight up better than, say, the Captured Souls, which is kind of the same mechanic-ish. There's a very, do I want to keep them? Do I want to spend them? I have cards we'll talk about that can use them. There are absolutely decisions that you get to make with respect to the mechanic of the token. I like that a lot.
Parker, what do you think the odds are this guy's in Convocation?
Let's see, 5% chance. I'm not going to make it a 0. I'm not going to make it a 0% chance. I'm going to do a 5%.
0.
I think he's going to have his own affiliation, and I think he might be in Cabal. Yeah.
I think didn't they already announce that he has his own?
We're going to talk about it. It's the last thing we're going to talk
about.
Okay. But yeah, I don't know for how many other affiliations we're going to see him in. But I'll say what I love about him actually is that I don't know if they've pushed what you can put on a 5-cost character, but I think they did a very clever job of making him a strong 5-cost, but the thing they did not give him was an insane amount of either survivability or an insane amount of just damage dealing, right? He does get to roll a bunch of dice, but he's not rolling a gob of dice, like a single 12 or something, and with no, I get to re-roll 4, and you don't get power, or you don't get DR, like just something that says he's only a damage dealer. But he also is not just only control. He has this really awesome mix that makes him a very rich 5, with just a bunch of very cool abilities.
I'm actually worried personally that he's not going to do enough of either. Is because if you spend a lot of the game for him to be doing the Infernal Bargain, where it's like he can only do 1 damage, that's really not useful for attrition standpoint. But also, is he doing enough control to make back his 5 points? And he's kind of squishy on his own. He's definitely one of the squishier 5s.
Sort of, but if he has a Devil's Deal token, he's really not, right? If he has a friend within 3 and a Devil's Deal token, he's...
Oh, sure, but I mean, someone's getting hit.
Right. But there's so many...
If you're taking other, tough characters to absorb those hits, sure.
if you're taking characters like Blob or New, we have Abomination. Like there are lots of damage soak characters that we
sure. There's good damage soak characters, but think of it this way: if every time I attack Mephisto, you're just shunting it to somebody else, you're gonna run out of deal tokens immediately every turn, which means all he's ever gonna be doing is doing bargain attacks, which means he's doing no damage.
Well, if you have a power to spend, he can turn bargain into Devil's Due also, right? So like you can constantly be using. Like if you have 3 power, or if you're playing it in a power, decost, cost faction, or something gives him 3 power, he can. How can it be of service? Do the attack 1 damage and then immediately do a Devil's Due. So he can cycle those Devil's tokens as well, or store them up. I feel like Devil's Due is actually.
Well, I'm just saying you can't do damage and have tokens, is what I'm saying. And so if you're spending your tokens on defense, you don't do damage. And if you are doing the service bargain attack into Devil's Due, then you have no defense, and so then you're just dying. And so that's all I'm saying is like that's gonna be an interesting. How can you get the efficiency out of it without dying?
I think there is. I think we're going to talk about it in a second, but I think his tactics cards are the reason to play Mephisto, right? Because he has these really all the Faustian bargain stuff is so cool, and some of them seem very strong, and a way to help you manage this economy that I think you're right, maybe a little difficult to not difficult to manage, but a little flat, right? Mm-hmm. But I don't think any character should be like infinite resources to do amazing stuff because his tokens are definitely strong.
I think his tokens are good. I think you just look at his frame, I don't think there's anything that justifies 5 points on his card. It's all about the deal tokens and the mechanics. And I don't know if that's enough to make up the difference. But I am very excited to try.
I mean, range 3 6-die attack is absolutely a 5-threat attack.
You think so?
For Gainer? Absolutely. I think there are 3-4 threats with 6-die attacks, and I think they're all range 2.
But there's people that have better than range 3 6 dice, even though they don't have 6 dice, because you've got rerolls and stuff.
They just added 2 new characters to the game with 7-die attacks at 5 cost. So
sure, I'm not saying that he couldn't be better. I'm just saying I don't see that attack suite on a 4 threat. How about that?
Okay. I mean, I'm just looking at like Shang-Chi obviously has a lot of combat mechanics, but his stat line is better. And then you've got Logan has always been a monster, but obviously has the small downside that you have to stay away from friends. Couple others, I think.
I think in How Can I Be of Service plus Devil's Due as just a way to get 1 Infernal Bargain token, most likely, and then immediately use it. Is you're going to do Devil's Due damage plus 1, and I love that it's uncontested damage, right? For every hit, you just take damage.
Sure, yeah, no, that's good, but like, there's a ton of 4-pointers that noticeably outdamage this guy.
Sure, but I don't think that's what he is, right? That's what I started with.
Again, I'm not saying he's supposed to be a damage dealer. I'm saying that it's concerning that you have a model with no board control that has limited damage output and costs 5 points. That's all I'm saying. And that we had just talked about how Abomination is terrible, or, we didn't quite say that, but, we're talking about the penalties of this model, and his damage output is 3 or 4 times what this guy is, and we're saying he's not good enough. I'm only pointing that out. I still love this model.
I will also say that I was wrong when I said he's not a gob of dice model, because if you play Termination Clause with 3 tokens on you, or we'll find out later, 5 tokens on you, that's
9 dice being 4. Yeah.
Or if you play the right tactics card, or we'll talk about it later, he could be 11 dice being 4. That's pretty cool. So do we want to talk about his cards before we make a final verdict with him? Because I feel like he is his cards.
Well, I don't think we're here to make verdicts, but.
I
mean, you was saying how Abomination's trash.
I think Abomination is trash, and Mephisto is awesome.
I think Abomination is Bolivar Trask. All right, let's go ahead and talk about his card.
Up the ante. I'm not even going to try to describe it to you guys, but as soon as I started reading it, this is for me. I'll just say this: the first card that as I was reading it, I saw the giant block of text, and I went, ugh. And then I started reading it, I was like, oh, this is great. Like, I love it. Even though it's a million words, I don't care because of what it is. Faustian packs on Tactus cards are just so much fun. That I love Modoc's cards, the Faustian packs. I love that this is just more. I want to play them both at the same time and play nothing but Faustian junk.
Just imagine if they were this good at writing Tactus cards when Dormammu and Strange came out.
Right, exactly. Right, that would have been so fun. yeah, this is going to be a ton of fun. But potentially, is Up the Ante actually a good enough card to take one of your slots and also fun, or is it just fun?
I'm still on
Man.
the third paragraph, so give me an hour.
Yeah. I don't know that you could ever take the first option. Ooh, you can just keep playing it?
Or remove a activated token. So it has...
I would do that on every attack of the game.
But isn't it interesting? So it literally has like a clause at the end that says, that says, so if your Mephisto doesn't already have an activated token on him, right? Like then it still can just come back. So basically, obviously your opponent has a clear choice, but
you can just choose not to remove it. It's a may remove, and if you don't, it comes back.
Yes, but that's in case, of course, if Mephisto doesn't already have an activated token on himself, then your opponent would just say, I pick the second option. I pick option number 2.
Yeah, and it just goes back.
Yes, but now it comes back, which is great. I love that they made it so you can't just automatically lose, right?
Well, but my point was you can literally play this card on every damaging attack of the entire game for your side.
Yep.
New stall tactic. I would like to up the ante. Let me think if I want to remove the token or not.
Yeah.
I will not. My rapid fire attack. Up the ante. Like, dear fucking God. I mean, yeah, it's clearly my favorite card of this cycle, so.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. I love that you love this card. I didn't know how you'd feel about it. I love it.
No, yeah, I love it. It's great. I think it's a weird precedent to set that there's, like, a card that has a potential infinite play mechanic,
But I also love that Up the Ante can be played if like as the Mephisto player, if you do 3 damage with a card and you look at your opponent, you're like, well, shit, I really need 3 damage on this character to put him to his dazed side. And if you play Up the Ante at that moment and they choose to take power damage instead, which if they don't have any power, it does nothing, or if they don't care about the power damage, it doesn't matter. And so now you're not progressing towards your end game of killing people. And yes, you do give Mephisto more Devil's Deal tokens, but your opponent might just take option 1 every time just so they keep the health of their characters. I think it's really interesting. I love that it's literally that awesome Faustian bargain. Like when you do 4 damage to somebody, you could say up the ante, and people go, "Oh shit, I could have a patch up right now. Literally trade my power for my own health. That's exactly what I'd love patch up to be. He's letting me play patch up in exchange for Mephisto getting extra tokens. That seems worth it, right? Oh, that seems cool. I love this card. This card is so cool.
I still think there's... Go ahead.
I like... So, Parker, you talked about the power economy of getting Devil's Steel tokens and the issues with trying to do damage and have the tokens. And this kind of fixes it, right? So instead of having the 0 to 1, you're going to be at 2 to 3 with the exact same economy. And I think that turns his spender into something that could potentially be very scary. So I'm no longer, or I could just keep those 2 in my hip pocket. Like those are my 2 bodyguard tokens if I need them. But for me, I want to get to as many as possible and then kind of keep them steady state. Because having that beam for 9 dice is amazing. But even if it's just 3, that's just 9, right? Base 6 plus 3. So it's very easy to have 9 dice beams. That's pretty nuts. So I think this enables some interesting play patterns for Mephisto. Makes him immortal or gives him some potential damage output. I don't know. Yeah,
I still don't think you can ever choose the first option. I mean, I know there will be tempting moments, but I don't see how that's ever a correct call. Because you just think about it, it's like, all right, well, you already have an activated token, and you had power, and you had Devil's tokens, you would have already beamed. And so you probably don't have one or the other. And so you just give him another opportunity to activate versus having to deal with him. Worst case scenario, he gets 2 tokens. Well, you're just giving him that anyway. I don't know.
He gets 2 tokens and does damage and changes board state. So I think it'll be a little more nuanced. I think there'll be times when your opponent wants to do number 1 because they can't afford, especially if it's on that side of the board. Mephisto's the only person there, and you have a model with 1 health. Like, well, I cannot let Mephisto activate, or he gets, to daze my model, pick up the extract. So I think there'll be times when your opponent has to choose one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, I think it's 100%. The thing I love about it is a Mephisto kind of thing, right? Where it's like both things are good for Mephisto, and that's what I like. There's not a bad. There's not. It's. But wh- I'm not kidding when I say like there are a lot of moments in the game where you would absolutely trade. Allow someone to play a patch up on your character with their own power. That's amazing. It is that tempting. I think it's a really clever card.
All right, what's the next one?
Brand new day. I don't know how much I like this one. If I like this one more than Up the Ante, I think Up the Ante just takes the cake. But brand new day. What do we get this?
Oh, it's probably not very good because you only remove one activated token.
I feel like this one is a little bit. It's fairly conditional. Although Mephisto is likely to daze people, or people might be dazed around him, or KO'd around him. But it's a little bit more conditional. So the number of times it's actually could occur during the game is lower, and so your opponent might be able to mitigate the effects. Also, it could potentially mess with. Well, I guess it doesn't mess with priority, right? Because the character comes back to life. Your opponent's character does, unless they have it already activated.
The two options are their model goes back to 1 health. You gain 2 Devil's Deal tokens and remove an activated token from any one of your characters, or you heal all damage from Mephisto and he gains 3 power. The issue is you would have to have a time to play this when both things are bad for them.
Right.
It's how often are you going to have a bunch of damage on Mephisto?
Yeah, I don't
know.
Yeah,
it's interesting because you could ride the wire and just take several attacks on Mephisto early and then rely on the Devil's tokens to keep him alive after that. But then he's obviously vulnerable to throws and stuff, and so it's just hard to say. But if you could line it up, then yeah, it's really good. Especially if you could just immediately attack again and kill them if you had a second action lined up.
Yeah, I actually like this one better.
Mm-hmm. Oh, really? As from the Mephisto standpoint, or a card?
Yes, from the Mephisto standpoint.
Oh, okay.
I think the ceiling in this card is incredibly high.
Yes.
It's like a Helios laser type of card, in terms that it can just straight up win some game states, but it's not going to do it every time. But I think it will do it consistently enough that it'll see play.
Give me, for example, I'd like to know what you're seeing here. I'm not seeing that. Tell me what you're seeing.
So just like Brandon was saying, there are a lot of things that have incidental damage to where if you pick number 1, you're going to automatically just kill your own model anyway. Right? So you have a throw before damage. Okay, well, I do the throw, I daze you. Would you like to choose number 1? Okay, great. You still die, and I get my
2 deal tokens, and I unactivate somebody.
Right, that seems like a horrible idea.
No, that's not an option.
Or my Mephisto had 4 damage on him. I get to heal 4 for free and get 3 power on Mephisto. Yes, please. That. I don't know. I see the ceiling on this card being a little more consistent and better.
Interesting. Okay. I felt like it was a little bit harder to pull off, but you are right. I guess
for me the problem is
in exchange for the conditions to be correct, you can, like you said, by taking characters that do damage and throws, there's ways to improve the likelihood of your brand new day going off. Go ahead.
For me, I just think the problem is the second option is so less good for you generally than the first option. Mm-hmm. It's going to be really hard to force them to choose anything else. And so you'd have to have 5 or 6 damage on him, I feel like, to even make it a choice.
Right.
Well, there's always weird situations that will happen. But, what if if they see you have this, it's well, I'm just never going to attack him unless I'm going to kill him. And so it's just...
yeah. It is difficult, though. There is a way for you, if you're a 7 health Mephisto, to say, okay, I'll take 1 attack because the likelihood of me getting dazed in 1 is low,
right,
and I have a Devil's token. But like you said, if they just do a throw after their big attack, now he's just down.
Yeah.
So there's
so you'll have to be sitting on brace. You'd have to have stuff in place as that layered defense to make those good choices. And there's also the times you just take 5 damage from a 5-die attack. So he has 3 physical defense. Yeah, I love this card. This seems super fun to play with, and I'm very excited to get it on the table.
All right, this next card makes me so upset, not because the card is bad, but because I feel like I need 8 tactic slots for Mephisto, because I love this fucking card so much. How many dice can we reroll? So many dice. Embrace the Inferno. This card seems there are a lot of over the top 1 turn damage cards, I feel like this one is just cuckoo pants. What do you guys think?
Disagree. There's one word in this card that makes me turn it from a great card to a probably bad card. You know what that word is?
If it does damage,
Nope.
removes, so you only get one super reroll.
It's just one word. What do
I
you mean by?
assume you're saying ally,
Nope.
or not other. Okay.
It's all.
Yeah.
I fucking hate reroll all mechanics.
Oh.
They're horrible. Says someone who played Darkstar last year.
Okay, I see that. I'm going to go ahead and raise
So-
my hand and say I did not see the all.
Oh, okay.
I rescind my earlier statement.
So I have a good roll. I choose not to re-roll it. I don't get rid of Incinerate anymore. It's fucking horrible.
As a longtime Doctor Strange player, I can tell you that reroll all, including skulls, is not bad.
Sure. But again, if they choose not to re-roll, they don't get to get rid of Incinerate. I just, this is so bad. The other cards are so interesting, and this one is just bad.
Well, I mean, if you Yahtzee it and don't do any damage, you keep Incinerate, you can do it again.
You are correct. But there is a situation where I might want to re-roll a relatively good attack roll just to make sure I get rid of Incinerate, and that's a position that the game designer should not be putting us in.
I mean, I think we could agree it'd probably be too good if your whole list got to reroll any.
If it was a
single
re-roll,
card.
Okay, so everything has to have an associated cost, right?
Mm-hmm.
4 power is relatively high on someone that has a gainer.
Sure. I mean, if you're saying it should cost 2 power with what it does, I'm not against that. But
sure, like everything is balanced based off of. It could be choose 2 characters. They get what is essentially fucking like winging it tokens. Like they can re-roll any once. Like okay, that's probably fine for a 4 cost, card from a Mephisto who also has great ways to spend power. So I don't know.
Honestly,
I could.
If it said any, I'm not that worried about it, but I think it is a noticeably better card. Maybe make it cost 5 if it's going to be reroll any.
Sure, but for me, it goes from we can talk about the cost of the card to it's completely worthless. I would not play this card if it was free in its current incarnation.
I feel like there is a world, because it doesn't just give you an all reroll. It also makes your opponents incinerated. So it drops your opponent's defense and improves yours-ish, right?
Well, your offense, not your defense, yeah.
It improves your offensive dice once, right?
Yeah, it also incinerates your own models. But yes.
Yeah,
yes.
And you're not going to be able to activate all of them before, that your
right.
goes.
So unless you have a character that is immune to incinerate, which you might be playing some because of, we'll talk about his leadership in a second.
You're playing at least one.
Yeah. So, and you're playing him, but but there is, well,
I mean, if you're immune to incinerate, then the card does less. I mean, you could just position him to be out of 3 of all of your models. That's something you could certainly do, because he's a fairly mobile piece.
Right. Also, he has the ability to, it also happens during the power phase, which means
but I mean, you could just activate him last in a turn, which is probably going to be fairly common anyway. And just you jump to the far side of the formation with his ability, and they're like, oh, next turn, Inferno, your whole team is incinerated.
But you don't get the reroll, so you're just spending 4 power to make
right. Well, you were talking about the advantage of incinerating the enemy team, so I was talking about ways you could do that.
Yeah, you could incinerate more of the enemy team and less of your own if you wanted just a certain, like if you only wanted one of your characters, if you knew you were going to have priority, which doesn't work in your example you just gave, but if you thought you were going to have priority, if you knew you were going to have priority, you could try to rig it so that one of your characters only one character that was meaningful.
Or a limited number, right? You could also have one person way in the back that's getting incinerated that's not an opportune target. Like, I don't know, Hawkeye or somebody that then could turn around and shoot back.
Right.
But Parker, I have some good news for you.
What's that?
AMG wanted to help you with your needing 8 tactic slots problem. So they made this card.
Yeah. I feel like this card, my first reading of this card is a lot better than it actually is. I knew of it, but I didn't realize it was reroll all. So makes it hard to care about. But
anyway, hopefully this one sees play. I think it's a fun card, but yeah, it's definitely the worst of the 3 we've seen. Yeah. So what's the last one?
So the last one is yet one more tactics card you might want to play with Mephisto. It is Devil's Reckoning. It is a reckoning. It is the leadership gives your affiliation Legion of the Lost.
It's a damnation affiliation.
The damnation. Damnation. Yeah. So Mephisto can become your leader of a unaffiliated characters. So it's yet a fourth. This is the fourth unaffiliated. Yeah, fourth unaffiliation where you don't have to. Mephisto's the only member, and it just happens.
It's unobtainium.
Yeah.
All right. So this leadership ability is probably the best in the game. So let's just start off. Your opponent chooses one non-dazed character they control without the incinerate condition. They gain immunity to incinerate.
No, they don't. Without the incinerate or the immunity.
Oh, they're immune. They gain a power and the incinerate ability. And
basically,
additionally, during the cleanup phase, choose 2 characters you control. They gain a power. So you also can't choose dazed people because reasons.
Yeah. So basically, you have to choose. You give your opponent a power. Again, it's the Faustian bargain, right? You give your opponent a little bit of incinerate, a little bit of power, and you gain a little bit of power. There are a couple characters in the game that like you to who like to attack people that are incinerated.
Everyone,
things like that. What's that?
I said everyone.
I think you meant more than normal.
No. There's a couple characters in the game that say specifically if they're incinerated, do X. There's
Pyro,
Human Torch. Yeah, there's a couple.
I mean, incinerate's a great condition to apply. Period. Dot.
Yeah, it's just stats, right?
The problem is your opponent chooses, so clearly they're going to choose the least impactful one for you, and they get a power. So,
I think the idea though is over time it's going to start getting on more and more people, right? Because you've already incinerated Wong, now you got to choose somebody else, and they're like, oh yeah,
yeah.
Obviously, that incentivizes Wong to get rid of incinerate quicker.
But there will be times when they have prio, and this gives them the extra power they need to do something. And then kill the model before you get to kill them, and incinerate is useless. Or they're Gwen, and they reposition away, and incinerate's useless. So I actually think the first part of the leadership is tilting towards worse for Mephisto than it is your opponent.
Agreed. Oh yeah, no, I think it's an advantage for your opponent. It was meant to be. If this was a power phase effect, I'd be way more on board. Since it's a cleanup and you don't get it on the first turn, which is usually the turn you need 1 power the most, that could have been really useful, and this is not. Yeah, this is a terrible leadership. I think in a lot of examples, you will just play him unaffiliated. Like, you'll probably have this card in your 10 because you don't need 10 deep slots, but all of his other cards are unaffiliated.
You might.
So, well, I'm just saying from the aspect of his other cards are unaffiliated, the only benefit you're getting for being affiliated is this leadership. So, in that example, there might be a Tactus card better than this.
Yeah, so maybe. I mean, I do like the 2 free power per turn.
Sure. No, it's not terrible. It's not worthless. I'm just saying that you might get in a situation where you're like, well, I need patch up, I need brace, and then I need the other Faustian things, and I want a, pick something, recal. You're like, well, I want recal more than I want Devil's Reckoning.
Yep.
You're like, I could see a game where that's true.
I concur in theory.
There will obviously be a lot of games where you do take the leadership. I don't think you'll ever see people just running unaffiliated without it.
Challenge accepted.
You'd put it in your 10, admit it, unless it was just for the challenge.
I would test some shit. Mm-hmm. But if I'm running him as a dual affiliation with something else, like
I could see it getting pushed out that way. But yeah, if you're just running, like, my plan A is Mephisto, it's like, well, it seems odd that you don't have a 10 slot.
Then you should probably put this card in there if all you're doing is running Mephisto as a leader.
I'll just put Dracula in and run the Dracula leadership, which is clearly better.
Yeah, I feel like the Dracula leadership it's really interesting.
I feel like they're both themey, and they're both not competitive, but I think the Dracula one is more competitive than this.
Yeah, I feel like the Dracula one is actually a sleeper. I feel like when people
I think it might actually be good.
Yeah.
The problem is, like, surviving doesn't win you the game. And so, like, even if Dracula's truly immortal, do what?
The bleed is not nothing, though. Like,
it's not going to win you the game, though. Like, it will help.
I don't know. I feel like I feel like that much damage to an opponent's list spread out, it definitely does
helps.
the thing.
I think the game just ends too quickly for bleed to make a noticeable change. I think it helps, but it's not going to do enough.
I think there'll be some games that it doesn't do anything, but I think there will be a significant number of games then
Also,
that leadership will shorten the opponent's health pool enough that it will
I think
actually make a
people
difference.
also underestimate how many characters are immune to bleed. They really don't
That's
realize.
true. There's
a lot.
A lot,
Yeah.
a lot. You're right. You're not wrong there.
I want to go back and reattack Brand New Day real quick.
Come at me.
Oh.
I think it's illegal.
What is illegal?
The card. Okay, not illegal. I think the card is not playable in its current state.
Okay. So
Right here,
when any
folks.
character would be dazed or KO'd while within 3 of an allied Mephisto, you may play this card. The enemy character's controlling player chooses one of the following effects. If any character is not dazed or KO'd and removes all damage. Okay, are you saying because dazed characters can't be chosen?
I'm saying, no, I'm not.
Okay, what you got then? I don't see it.
Who plays the card?
Mephisto plays the card.
Not what that says.
Okay, so any character would be dazed.
Oh shit! The he could be referring to the enemy character.
In fact, according to English, it does refer to the enemy character.
Yeah.
I don't think you're wrong by like standard English. I'm just wondering if
I know I'm not wrong from standard English. Subject, verb,
Yeah.
clause.
We literally
Yeah.
just talked. This came up in an earlier card
Terrible.
today
Yeah.
when I asked about he refers to. It's literally that.
Trying to think of a similar card that we could check.
It literally came from earlier today. Let me find it.
Oh, it's just 2 Heroes for Hire.
We just saw it earlier today. You will do as I say, monster. During George Tarleton's activation, if he is within 2 of an allied abomination, he may spend 5 power to play this card. So the he
Right,
is
but
George.
he's also not the only named character in that phrase.
Why would you not need a? You don't need a.
It's the exact same agreement, though.
It's
If
exactly the same.
character is within blah,
No, I think
that
you're right.
character.
That's what I'm reading now. It's because Heroes for Hire is when an allied character is targeted by an attack and is within 3 of an allied blue cage. It says specifically here the allied character may, so it doesn't work in this example.
So
because they
it should
don't
have
use
just
that.
said if really Mephisto may play this card.
Yeah.
But
it should, but it doesn't, and it's wrong.
And honestly, we should really throw it in their face with how often that shit gets thrown at us. Do you want to post on the rules form, Aaron?
Fuck no, I don't give a shit anymore. Rules form can burn. I don't care.
I also am not a huge fan of rules form.
I don't need to care about that. However, going back to Devil's Reckoning for a moment.
I mean, it's legal. I could bring this card as one of my 5, and
Sure.
my opponent could choose to play it.
Or you could bring it as part of your 5 if you think you'll play against Mephisto. Just be
I
like,
really can't think of another
play
card
Brand
that
New
has the
Day.
same wording.
please, Aaron, I need you to play Brand New Day on somebody else's Mephisto.
No, it's actually
With
going
the
to be great because
with the
it's going to
conviction.
be great.
With
Wait,
the
hold
same
on.
conviction. Do it.
Maybe that's how it's supposed to work? Do we know it's not? It's a Faustian bargain. Is
Yep.
your opponent supposed to be the one that decides when the card gets played?
You're bringing a card that they're playing.
Syntax, that's how it works.
That is not the intent, but yes.
Are you sure?
I'm
Are
sure.
you Will Pagani?
I did say the Holiday Express last night, but I'm not Will Pagani.
Ooh. I mean, that would be the ultimate troll, wouldn't it? Is your opponent gets to choose when it's played because it's a bargain. It's like the contracts are available and they just sign it whenever they want.
No, that's not how it's played. He pulls them out and tempts you with them.
Oh no.
I want Aaron to play this card on somebody else's Mephisto like he played Mission Objective against you that one time.
Yeah.
I want to just be like, I play Brand New Day.
I think it would be hilarious. Like, let's say, well, there's a tournament in like 3 weeks. When's Mephisto come out?
Precisely when he needs to.
That sounds right. Thanks, website, for making me log in. They got tired of people spoiling release dates, so they put a login on the release calendar. Wrecking Crew. Mephisto release day. It was the slowest website ever. Read full description. 11/8. Oh man, it comes out like the day. Oh, it comes out 6 days after the tournament. Damn it! I was gonna say that'd be perfect. It comes out like the day before the tournament, and it's like people show up with Mephisto, and Aaron's like, "I'll play the deal now to get rid of it," and you're like, "No!" That would be great. Yeah, your Mephisto gains 3 power and heals 0 damage. I would like to undaze my character, please. All right. Do we have anything else?
I was going to say, I think I'm going to probably try to play Legion of the Lost and Devil's Reckoning at least once and be really, really sad because as it turns out, getting like an average of like 8 power over the course of a whole game is just absolutely terrible. I feel like this is...
I don't even... I mean, there's going to be a lot of games where you don't even get 8.
Right.
Like, I think the average you will gain throughout a game is 6.
Yeah.
Because that means the game's ending on 4, effectively.
And
Because you're not powering up. Like, your turn delayed.
I'm used to playing Avengers where I'm getting 6, like...
Turn 1.
Yeah, turn 1. During your opponent's
turn
turns,
1.
I'm getting 6. Like, this is not good enough. But every other part of it, all the other Faustian cards, all of them, I love them.
Are you going to make another proclamation, Parker, that you're going to play Embrace the Inferno 10 times or something? Like, no, you're done with those? Because
I'm done.
Aaron, I don't know if you're aware, but Parker is never going to play another game of MCP without Wolverines in his squad.
It's my 10th card.
It's in his squad.
It was so frustrating to listen to you guys on that episode.
I bet it was. Wolverines is the best card in the game. It's got to get banned. It's the only way to stop it.
As far as I can tell, it's as good as a restricted card. So that's got to be good, right? It's got to be good.
Better than even.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Well, we're running out of time already. Do you guys have anything else you want to cover?
Nope.
Alrighty. Well, thanks for tuning in this week, everybody. Hopefully you enjoyed us again reading the news. This has been Brandon.
And Parker.
And Aaron.
And you've just listened to The Gang Read the News. Again.
So what are we going to call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just going to put down infamous.
We back.
All right. Aaron, in honor of you coming back to the cast, I told you I was so excited for you to be here, so that you could be here when I talk to Brandon about anime that I've been watching.
Just real quick, do you ever have people that say things incorrectly and like you've informed them that what they're saying is wrong, but they just don't? There's such a habit that they don't adjust it.
Mm-hmm.
Literally every person in the world but me. Yes.
Yeah. There was a 40k player at 31st Century who played Necrons, and I don't know if you ever met this person. You probably did. I know you've met him at tabletop at least a couple times, but his thing he would do is he would say "we be backs." It wasn't "we'll be back." It was "we be back," and so no matter how many times we tried to correct him, he's like "we be backs," and it just sounds so wrong. It's like nails on a chalkboard when you know what it's supposed to say, and he just. For 10 years, he said, "We be backs." And it's that's
be
not
back. Like
that's the name of the rule because they regenerate, and so they would come back to life.
Got it.
But he would call them "we be backs," not "we'll be back," because it was meant to be a reference to Terminator.
Right.
And it was just like that's not what it's like taken for granted, and it's just like that's not okay. Hold on.
So I'm a little confused. I'm not saying this is not a worthy topic, but why did you jump from that from me wanting to talk about anime?
No, it's because I said "we back" and it just clicked into my brain. It's because I normally say "we're back." I said "we back," and then I realized what I had done to myself.
Okay.
This is the later years of torment after I've been subjugated to this horrible experience.
Basically, you're checking yourself, so you're not wrecking yourself.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So please tell me about the animes.
No, I'm going to look at the time here. I'm going to give myself 40
We're gonna
seconds.
I'll start a stopwatch for you.
Here we go. 40 seconds. JJK Season 2 was amazing because it set up something from...
Wait, hold on.
Episodes,
Are you done with it already? That
no,
was quick.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm near... I think I don't know how far I am actually from the end. I'm in I think I'm 12 or 13 episodes into Season 2.
Okay, so just so you know, Season 2 is much longer than Season 1.
Oh, okay. So, at any rate, Zero gave me so many amazing questions. Season 2 has just barely started to answer them. I believe what you say when you think that Season 2 is the best season of television ever. I would say it is by far the best. It might be the best season of Japanese animation ever. I still think that Blue Eyed Samurai tops it just a little bit, but I haven't seen the whole season yet, so we'll see how it goes.
I haven't seen that yet, so we'll see.
But
Where are
it's way
you,
up
without giving
that's all I'll say.
spoilers, where are you chronologically? Are you still in the flashback?
No, I'm past the flashback. They're
Okay.
fighting. They just did something to Gojo in the subway.
Are you excited?
A little.
Okay. Did you like the Gojo fight in the subway?
Mostly I just liked it because I found out what the hell his best friend was doing there this whole time. That's the thing
Yeah.
I wanted. That's the thing that I was really upset about. I was like, why is he there? Why has he been here this whole time? This makes me really
People call him a Pokemon trainer. Because that's what he does.
He's got to
collects
catch the ball.
Pokemon.
Yeah,
He puts them into balls, and now he has Pokemon.
That character makes me actually really upset. It's made me really mad that it's not him. No, I won't spoil. Sorry.
Yeah, you don't know.
But I'm really it made me a little upset the direction they went with him, and I hope it turns out better than it is currently in this setting. But I like it. I'm really, because I loved his character. The whole the flashbacks, the development of his character, like his motivation, I think is awesome. It's really cool. So yeah, that's all I'll say because I gave us 40 seconds and I'm way over.
You were
I don't
way
know
over.
why
I
you said
wasn't going to
40
point it out.
seconds. That was never going to work.
Aaron, did you get to consume anything on your way to or from Europe? Did you get to watch or read anything, or was it mostly just planning?
I watched 9 movies on 2 flights. None of them were worth reporting on, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
I watched Dune on my last plane flight, and that was amazing. And then I had to watch it outside of a screen.
I was going to say, like, that's not, I think, the setting to watch.
I know,
Dune.
exactly. It was one of those things where I was like, I was looking at my iPad. I was hooked up to their Wi-Fi service, and I was like, Dune. I don't know if I'm ever going to get like an hour and a half quiet to watch Dune. And even though it's not quiet, I'm going to try. And I loved it so much. I tracked down hours later to watch it without a din around me. But Aaron did not have that experience. Could you just give me one sample, Aaron? What's one thing that you were disappointed by on the plane? What's one movie you tried?
You'd think with 9 movies I could remember one.
It's like a bed of nails.
No Hard Feelings.
No Hard Feelings.
That sounds familiar.
It's a rom-com, right?
Sure, we can call it
Yeah.
that. It's supposed to be a rom-com instead of just.
Is that the J-Law one?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
I have a low bar for rom-coms, and this failed to clear it. So.
Oh no. It looks like exactly Failure to Launch, which was another one that I didn't like very much. So that's why I avoid it.
The best movie I watched was Jungle Cruise. That tells you the quality of movies I watched.
Which is like Jumanji, like,
Again,
but for poor people.
I don't think it's for poor people. It's still really expensive.
Well, you've heard, like, the poor man's blah, blah, blah. It's
Oh,
like,
got
yeah.
it. But for
Yeah.
poor people.
But for poor
So
people.
I thought Jungle Cruise was great for what it was, right?
Okay.
Like it's not going
A
to win
lot
an
of those,
Oscar,
like,
but it
new
was
family ones are.
entertaining to watch, and it was very campy on purpose.
I really like Jumanji, like the new one, the redo.
Sure. Yeah.
I liked it a lot.
It's Jumanji Light. Let's call it that.
The reason why Jumanji worked was specifically the cast, like, was perfect
Sure.
for that goofy thing. It was just really good.
Oh well, the cast is just the same. Like
Okay. I was like, one of them is identical. So doing the
yes,
same
they're also perfect. They do it really, really well.
Oh,
Like
good.
Jeremy cannot watch that movie ever. There are like 12 dad jokes in a row.
Oh, yeah. Jeremy, I'm telling you, Jeremy actually likes them. He's doing a good job of hiding it.
Yeah, he's in the closet about
Like
it.
that's how campy it gets.
Okay.
Unabashedly campy. So
I found out that Jeremy didn't know the Pirate's Favorite Letter joke, and so I had to tell him. I thought for sure he had heard that one, but maybe he's just forgotten.
It's the C, right?
Yeah, well, you start off like, because it's the ultimate trap joke, because it's the one that most people who think they know dad jokes can respond to. Of, is it R? But then no, it's the Pirate's True Love be the C.
Yeah.
And then it's like, and then they're just like, I hate you. And of course, Jeremy walked right into it because he hadn't heard it before. But I thought for sure he had caught that one at some point. Parker, did you ever pick up your fancy card? You did, right?
Yeah. Oh, I did instantly. As soon as you told me it was there, I
He's
sprinted.
got in his car.
If there is a meme for the
Yeah.
hard chopping hand sprint, that's what I was doing. I was.
Funnily enough, that's now the Gojo meme.
Yeah.
Is Gojo running at full speed?
Yeah, that's basically I was Gojo sprinting. That card is so fucking cool. It's already sleeved up, and I decided that Apocalypse is going to be painted by Richard. I sent him away. I didn't try to paint him his 2 colors. but I'm excited when he comes back. I will give him a try. The internet is a Twitter, from what I can tell. The small amount of social media I allow myself to be exposed to. So many people are coming back to MCP or getting into MCP solely so that they can play Apocalypse. I did not realize what a huge fan following he had. I knew he was popular and a big part of a lot of people's childhoods. I didn't realize how many people loved him. As an antagonist, I didn't realize how.
Yeah.
For somebody who's steeped in comics, you'd think I would be more surprised. But it makes sense, like Magneto and Joker and Doctor Doom, like some of these like super iconic ones. But Apocalypse has not been featured in that many different things, and people really, really, really want him in this game, which is super cool. I'm glad they're excited. I'm excited about my card.
Your card? Oh,
yeah. Aaron, you weren't here when we talked about him. Are you going to get on the Apocalypse train?
Not immediately. No.
Do you want to talk about your trip at all? Do you want to do that during the cast? Do you want to do it in the pre-ramble?
Whatever you guys want. I don't care.
I want to know. I want to know lots.
Yeah. It was for Blood Bowl.
Uh-huh.
And so, do you have any fun stories about your Blood Bowl matches?
Fun stories that are relatable to a wide audience that doesn't play Blood Bowl.
Well,
not really.
Brandon and I know of Blood Bowl. Like, we played it.
Yeah, no,
sure. I was thinking of the wider listening audience.
I remember last time you went to one of these, I think you were asked to like fall on the sword several times and just try to get a draw from your team, which makes sense, like strategically. Did that happen a lot again, or?
Twice. However, I wasn't so much asked to as I did it on purpose. Mm-hmm. So this was an interesting match. I stopped my opponent from scoring. He then kicked off to me. I drove down the pitch. I had the game mostly in the bag, but he's playing Skaven, and their gutter runners can do anything. They just have to sometimes roll some dice. So I'm in a position where I could either score, which guarantees me a touchdown, and he has 4 turns left. So he might score, he might not, but I have basically guaranteed a draw with a possible win. That's option A. Option B is I hold out, not scoring, which means he has to have a re-rollable 5 into 2 dice uphill, which means he's rolling 2 dice and I get to pick which one is applied. So low odds, but if he makes it, he might be able to score a touchdown because he's just got these super high agility, super high movement pieces. So we're looking at current game state. It's a 87% win, 7% draw, 5% loss. And I opted to position my person right next to the touchdown line, and my opponent blitzed me in, made the dodge, and then got a push, and I think both dice, and was able to push me into the end zone, forcing me to score, so that I would then be able to, or he'd be able to, score a touchdown to pull out a draw.
Possess the ball.
Yep. He ended up doing that, getting the draw. I made him roll some dice. Like it was not a guaranteed draw. I still had a good shot at winning it. I just ended up pulling out the draw, and he thought that was a mistake on my part, positioning next to the end zone to where he could push me into it. But I told him, no, actually it wasn't. Looking at the team, and we're actually finishing earlier than my teammate, so I didn't know if I needed a win, or a draw. But in the team environment, the number one rule is do not lose.
Yeah.
So I wanted to take that 5% loss completely off the table, even if it reduced my win from like an 87 to like a 65. And so I ended up drawing instead of winning. But it was, I think, based on the team environment, not the wrong call to make.
Yeah, it's fair. Well, so was your thought process when you put yourself on the goal line that you could be pushed in, that you would rather, if you were going to score sooner rather than later, so you would get the ball back if he did score?
No, there's only going to be 3 turns left. So the reason I went all the way up to the end zone, so I knew he could push me in, but I did that because he was starting to have some people to come back and pressure the ball, and this let me free up 1 extra model that I didn't need to protect my ball carrier with. Mm-hmm. So in Blood Bowl you have a cage, which is the ball carrier in the middle, and then 4 corners on the outside. So you have four people who are doing nothing but protecting the ball, which means assuming equal number of players, your opponent can then beat up on the rest of your team. So I needed to pull someone off to help beat up his gutter runners. And I by going to the end zone, I still had the same level of protection on the ball. But I was able to continue to pound him into the ground. So if he did not get the lucky dodge and then push, then I just get to, I'm increasing the win percent, if it will.
Yeah.
So
And
that's why I went there. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's any number of dice rolls he could have failed, which would have just put him in an even worse spot, but for trying.
Yep. Cool. So that's why I positioned next to the end zone. But
did you see any unexpected fun teams that people have built, or is it all pretty standard?
So it was pretty standard. I'm sure there were some fun teams, but we ended up playing on the top 2 tables starting in round 2, and at that level, it was pretty much standard in terms of the builds.
That makes sense.
The actual rule set also didn't allow for an enormous amount of I want to say creativity, but ways to abuse the rule set is probably the better way to say it.
How'd you guys end up doing?
US ended up taking 2nd overall.
Wow.
We lost to France in round 4, so we're the only team that was 3-0-0 after the first day. Then we played France first round of the second day, and the entire match between us came down to our last game. Our coach needed a rerollable 3 and 2 go-for-its to score the winning touchdown, and he failed the rerollable 3. If he makes the rerollable 3, we end up tying France, which would have given us the tournament victory based on tie breaks, because we would have tied in the end.
Damn. Well, good job.
Thanks.
How many teams were there?
28. And so again, this is 1 team per country. So every country gets to pick their top 8 coaches in whatever fashion they choose to do so. And then basic Swiss tournament from then.
Oh, it's a team of 8.
Yeah, team of 8.
Wow, that's a big team.
Like France had the team of 8, and they had a coach. And the coach spent the entire time walking back and forth, pacing behind the tables. And you're not allowed to give hints on like what you think someone should do. But you can
not allowed
say
to influence play.
Correct. Well, you can by saying you need to win. Like, okay, then I'm gonna, take riskier actions.
Oh, so they can inform about other games.
Correct. They can say they can. Yeah, exactly. You can talk about how the games are going, but you cannot talk about how actions you should take in your game.
Got it. So the coach is more like it helps with overall strategy, perhaps at the start of the game, and then is an informer, like a reporter, basically.
And there are a bunch of teams that had like really big wooden dice, and they used them to communicate up and down the table with how well their game was going. So a 1 meant they were like losing for sure, and a 6 meant they were winning for sure. And so some people were like, "Yeah, we should adopt that," because we hadn't been.
Because their coach can easily see what's going on and then relay the information around, or they can just look without having a coach.
Right. So I was vehemently against adopting that plan.
I don't like that at all.
The reason why was because the best moment of the entire weekend was watching my opponent flip his dice from a 4 to a 2. Like, you never want to tell your opponent that you're like, suffering with despair on the inside. And that's exactly what my opponent did when he was like, click 3, click to 2. I was like, that's right. Suck it, punk.
It is. It's weird to basically display your confidence to your opponent. Yeah. That's really odd.
Well, also Blood Bowl is a much more... It is hectic and chaotic, but it's also methodical. As we're like, MCP is... You could probably do the same thing for MCP, but like, you could turn MCP really easily by just hitting a couple big rolls. I think because there's so many more actions you have to take to have a good turn in Blood Bowl. I mean, obviously you can just get like a lucky touchdown and just hit like 4 consecutive die rolls. But I feel like if you're getting crushed in Blood Bowl, you know you're getting crushed, and like at a certain point you just can't come back.
No. I think Blood Bowl switches.
You say that till half your team is in the reserves box and you literally don't have players left.
Sure, you can. Yeah, sure, you can tell.
And you're down 3 scores.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, I would never want to know, regardless of the game system, how confident my opponent feels. That's just not something I want as information. It's weird. I don't.
I think it'd be interesting to know how confident my opponent was. And like being like, "Whoa, really? You seem awfully confident." Or like, "Yeah, that checks out. You should feel that good."
Maybe
like or that bad.
Maybe academically it would be interesting, like if you're trying to
Mhm.
table talk, but like during a competitive event, I want my opponent to just play. I want to focus on my own game. I don't want to try to guess how confident they are in the moment or
Sure.
be told, because that's that'll affect my game. I don't know, that's weird.
Sure, and this was very specific to the team environment, right? So,
but the thing I really would like about it is it keeps you from interrupting games. Like, and if you have a coach, a coach could watch the game for like 5 minutes and go, "Oh, okay, I see how this is going currently," and then they could talk to other people about it. But if you're like, "How's Aaron doing on table 6?" and you're like, "Aaron, how you doing?" and you're like, and then you have to tell them how you're doing versus just like having something on the side of the table. Like, I feel like that'd be way more disruptive and like alarming if you were interrupted repeatedly during your game and people are asking how you're doing.
Yeah.
No. So no one ever asked how we were doing. Like,
right.
we would tell our coach, basically like leaning win or probably a draw or definitely a loss is our extent of conversations. The same thing they were doing with the dice, right? But no one ever interrupted a game to ask how it was going on. I wasn't policing the entire
tables,
tournament, but that's not standard, right?
Also, one of the funny things about that is, and I see your team, like I feel like I'd have to practice this because I am not good at telling how likely I am to win, but maybe I'm just in game systems that I played that are just a little more volatile. But I feel like I could clearly make a bad call early and have a lot of confidence or lack of confidence, and then just be wrong by turn. I don't know what is it? 12 is that game or turn?
16.
There's 16 total, 2 halves.
So like around 12, when you're starting to see the end game, I'm like, oh crap, and that's when I start to turn the dial. I'd be so upset. I would be frustrated if I gave misinformation to my team by trying to guess wrong, I guess.
Well, it's kind of like watching football. I mean, it's obviously they're not very parallel, but just looking at it, you're like, oh, this team's up 10 points, and it's the first quarter. You're like, well, assuming things progress like this, they're going to be fine, but, things can change.
That's interesting.
But yeah, and also, like, someone who's very well versed in the game will look at it and goes, oh, I know that this team is really good on defense or offense or can score quickly, so there's still a chance. But, like, for instance, if you have a dwarf team who's generally slow and methodical and it's on turn 12 and they're down 2 scores, they're not winning. Now, maybe they might be able to miracle tie it, but they're not going to win.
I would... At that level, like, you're probably
That's
not
like
tying it either, right?
Yeah, you're probably not tying it either. Very unlikely to. You might score. It'd be the hope. It's like you might get a point.
Speaking of different factions, real fast, I was just curious, what faction did you play? I don't think I ever asked you.
I played Necromantic Horror, which is your basic Halloween type werewolves, flesh golems, ghouls. And
Necromantic team is probably my favorite team to play. It was never my favorite team for modeling, although I think they just got new models, didn't they? Did they get new ones?
A lot of teams have gotten new models.
Probably 2 years ago at this point, maybe even 3. Yeah.
Oh, I couldn't remember, because I remember the original models I thought were just absolute trash, but most of them were.
Parker, do you want a Necromantic Horror team?
No.
No?
But it is my favorite team to play in the game.
What if it was like...
I've only played the computer game. But I really, really like the variety.
You played the real game, just not with Necros.
Yeah, I played with. I have a dwarf army, a dwarf team.
So you don't want my Necromantic Horror team that's painted?
Probably.
Okay, fine. See how it is.
I really don't appreciate the game live. It bothers me, actually. It's one of my least favorite games to play.
Well, when you take 20-minute turns, that's going to be the case.
That's not the reason. We don't have to. I'm not going to talk about all the reasons I don't enjoy playing it. I just don't enjoy playing it live. But I do like the game premise, and I love the lore. And so I have played it a lot online. And the reason why I like to play it online is because I can just turn it off when I get really, really, really mad at it, and I don't ruin somebody's day. Because it is the game that sets me off more than any other game.
It's intended to, yeah.
Yeah, it really.
It's like an anger machine.
What's really funny is that some people just like Aaron. You just love the system, and it doesn't make you angry. Or maybe if it does, you can manage it. And I've never, for some reason, that game I cannot manage my frustration at that game. So I really, really like so many parts of it, and so I'm willing to turn the game on constantly and play it. But I literally have to be able to just go nope and just walk away from my Xbox. That being said,
the computer version
I love
is
it.
extremely frustrating on campaign mode because
Could
the dice are just so stupid.
Aaron, could you tell me? Now you got me curious, and I know we're getting into the weeds here. But what was your team? I'd like to know because I love necromantic teams so much.
It was the 8 positionals, 2 flesh golems, 2 race, 2 werewolves, and 2 ghouls, and 4 zombies.
Yay.
12
Awesome.
models, 2 rerolls. That was it.
Wow.
And for skill ups, I gave 6 block and 2 guard to the positionals.
I was
So
gonna say
all the
werewolves.
positionals. ended
Flesh
up having-
Golems got guard.
Yep. No, they got block.
Cool.
Race got guard because they start with block.
Oh,
And I'm guessing the ghouls got block,
block.
and the
block because
werewolves
they
got
start
block.
with dodge.
Yep.
That's one of the things I love about that list is that everybody gets so specialized and so complete so quickly, and then you can just play. I really like it.
So it's only my goal was to play with it a bunch over the course of the year to get ready, but they're really expensive in game, not real money, but in game money. So unless they're tiered lower than a bunch of other teams, they're really not competitive at all. And so I don't want to say 0 opportunities, but 0 competitive opportunities to take them to a different tournament and feel like I wasn't just hamstringing myself.
Oh, then tell me a little bit about why you got to play that team at this World Championship.
Okay, so the Euro Bowl, which is what it's called, has a very maybe not complex, but thought out rule set. So they have 6 different tiers, and each tier has a different amount of money that they get to spend to build their team, and then a different number of skill points you get to distribute afterwards, right? So Necromantic Horror were tier 3, which means they had 1.17 million gold pieces and 8 skills, which was just enough to do exactly what I said we needed. 12 models, 2 rerolls, and then
8 skills.
Yeah, the 8 skills, the 6 block and 2 guard.
That doesn't seem incredibly unfair. It is a really complete package for them, but it doesn't seem incredibly unfair. Why were other events not allowing this to happen? Like, what about it?
So the easiest way to run a tournament is just to be like, we're playing a bubble tournament, show up with a team. And you don't bother tiering the various races, and you don't bother giving them different amounts of gold in the tier. So it's just a lot more work.
Yeah. And like Aaron said before, the Blood Bowl tournaments are extremely varied on rule sets. And so like you might go to one rule set and they have Necromantic Horrors ranked tier 2, and tier 2 teams get like 1.1 million gold. And then you'll go to another tournament with be ranked tier 4, and tier 4 teams might get, 1.5 million gold or whatever it happens to be for that tournament. And so you can end up with very different, teams based on those tournaments. And part of the fun, I think, is finding the sweet spot for a particular team at a different tournament. So in one tournament, your dwarf team, even if they're still ranked at the same rank, they might have different rewards for being tier 2 or tier 3. And so you might be just short of getting like your second reroll or getting all of your guys having a skill.
Do they do the different teams at different ranks to kind of spin the wheel and make people change? Or is it like individual tournament organizers are like, I like dwarves, or I think dwarves are broken, so I'm going to give them less resources?
Yeah.
Like, or is it somehow a mix of both? Like, what is...
Are you talking Euro Bowl or tournaments in general?
Give me tournaments in general, and tell me what Euro Bowl, what their like philosophy is. I'm curious.
So tournaments in general are either an attempt to balance the playing field. There's usually not a whole lot of personal bias. Like, I hate this team. Euro Bowl is the same thing. They just do it well. Like, there's a whole committee, and I think their packet is probably the most fair tournament packet that I have come across in the past couple long while.
Is there any reason why, for the foreseeable future, of course, obviously new things come out and things get changed, and eventually it'll be too old. But there's any reason why you can't run an event now using their packet?
In fact, I just requested a tournament for the 1st of December using their packet.
Okay, cool. So they don't care if you use it. There's nothing like proprietary about it.
Yeah.
And then the next year's Euro Bowl committee will tweak the packet in some different way. Because this one added 4 different optional blessings you could give your team, but each blessing could only be taken twice amongst your team. So there was an aspect of team building to it as well. And like one of the blessings was you can take a star player. So you couldn't unless you were one of 2 teams who decided they needed a star player and were able to pay the the tax for that star player, and it worked out for him. If that kind of makes sense.
Mhm.
So so most tournaments don't let you stack skills. So I can't take 2 skills and put them on the same guy. Some do. For Euro Bowl, you could take the blessing that let you stack skills, but there were some limitations if you did. So it's all a bunch of give and take. But bottom line is there wasn't anything that was the obvious. Oh yeah, you just windmill slam this because it's, the obvious best
Right.
answer to the
Mm-hmm.
what Brandon was talking about. Like, let's find what's going to work for this tournament. It was really hard to find an obvious. You should all definitely take X. So
Yeah.
Now, having said
So-
that, there were still a lot of most taken, if you will, but a lot of that's just because the races themselves are just very good.
Would you rather see tournaments in general kind of adopt like a singular packet as a circuit? So like maybe say half the tournaments all use the Euro Bowl packet, or are you happy with that most tournaments are kind of doing their own thing?
I'm gonna say, I wish
'Cause,
it was
all
like
of them would be bad, but if there was still a little bit of diversity, but there was like, this is what we consider the competitive balanced game,
Mhm.
and that's what most people do. But then there's still some people doing funsy stuff or tweaking it.
I would probably rather see most people do that. I would say 75%, maybe it's 50, maybe 50% of tournaments don't have no tiering whatsoever. And I really don't prefer those tournaments because, like, if I don't play something that's obviously meta good, like, I'm just shooting myself in the foot, and I don't like that feeling.
Yeah.
I realize
you,
I could
like,
always
you-
take goblins to any tournament, but I'd like to have a
Yeah.
bonus for it because they need it.
Exactly. The like the stunty teams, which are intentionally designed to be casual teams.
Right.
Even in the core rulebook, GW suggests that you do like a 3-tier system, and they give you a breakdown for which tier people are in.
Sure,
So
but they
clearly,
don't.
like,
Yeah, they don't say
sure
what the difference in tiers is. Just that there is
Mhm.
one.
They just tell you it's like, hey, if you're playing a tier 3 against a tier 1, like there might be a reason you're losing all your games.
So I have one anecdote I want to share.
Okay.
On the way back from the tournament, I was on the metro, and there were some other guys that flagged me down, so I went over to sit with them. One of them is a Spanish podcaster, and they did a primer for the Euro Bowl where they each took 2 or 3 teams and they dissected them. And they got to our team, US, and they're like, man, so US finished 17th out of 22nd in 2022. So not super well. US is not known for being good at Blood Bowl. But we shuffled up the team a little bit, so I got to get some big kudos to our coach, who had some very objective tryouts. And so this Spanish podcasting crew was looking at our records, all of our data that's online, and it was pretty impressive. But they're like, man, are these guys... Because one person on our team had an 85% win rate, which is absolutely insane when you consider this is a game that has a lot of ties.
I was going to
So
say
it
that's
naturally
insane.
pulls it to the mean. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it is unheard of. And they're like, are these Americans just like, running a NAF tournament with their kids and beating up on them?
Yeah.
Like, are all our numbers inflated? Because on paper we were stacked, but
Mhm.
no one had heard of most of the people on our team. We're a bunch of nobodies from a no-name Blood Bowl country. So anyway, that was kind of their, like, man, this team is stacked, but are they for real? ?
Yeah.
And then we kind of showed up. Yep, we're for real. So that was,
Because you went to the World Cup last year, right?
Yep.
And you haven't been to Euro Cup before. or Euro
correct.
Bowl.
Euro Bowl is, had not been. 2022 is the first time the U.S. was able to go, invited to go, rather.
Gotcha.
And then,
Because that's like the crunchy competitive tournament, and the World Cup is more of like the celebration of Blood Bowl. Is that close? Am I
that
semi-right on
is kind of close. World Cup has
Okay.
unlimited number of participants.
that? Mhm.
So each country can send however many teams they want. And so at the end of that 2,400 person tournament, you're going to have multiple teams who are undefeated, might not have played each other, etc. It is definitely not as crunchy as Euro Bowl. That's not to say that, US will probably try to put together a good team for World Cup.
Sure.
But you might have the one team that's try hard, and then 6 other teams or 12 from that country. Like, it was in Spain 2 years ago, and I think they had 600 Spanish coaches. So yeah, just have a lot of people show up to have a lot of good time. Having said that, there will be some tryhards there, which is fine.
Oh, for sure, I would expect there to be. But like you were saying, like that, there's going to be a lot of teams that go undefeated in that kind of bracket, or just that just it's almost like a big free for all because there's so many people.
Yep. So yeah, the only difference is Euro Bowls, 1 team per country, and World Cup is just make a team and show up and have fun.
Cool. So from what you had told me prior, it sounded like your guys' coach was really put the work in, I would say, towards trying to put a good team together.
Yeah. His name's Brian too, and huge props to him. He did a great job.
Congratulations, man. That sounds fantastic.
Thanks. It was awesome.
Do you think the U.S. will get a invitation next year, or is there one next year? Is it every 2 years? How does it work?
It's every year, unless there's a World Cup, and just like soccer, that's every 4 years. So there'll be 3 years of Euro Bowl and then a World Cup is the rotation. Yes, U.S. will be, unless Europe is like, not happening again. You guys can stay home.
That would be amazing.
Yeah, it'd be a snub.
I might even say that's the most Euro thing ever.
Yeah, we should be back next year.
Yeah. So you had a vacation on top of that, right? Didn't you stay longer?
Yeah, I took 2 days of Blood Bowl and turned it into 14 days of total vacation.
Nice.
It was probably the best vacation I've ever been on.
Whoa.
Did you guys stay in Greece the whole time?
We did Greece for 11 days. Well, there's some travel in there. Let's call it 10, and then 3 days in Turkey. All the Greece was in Athens. We did a cruise through the Gulf for 1 day, saw some islands, did the whole drop anchor, go swimming. But otherwise, we didn't stay on the islands at all. And then in Turkey, it was all in Istanbul.
Very cool.
Yep. Weather was perfect. 65 to 85 every day, no rain. I have a massive spreadsheet with how I planned everything, which was well organized, but not a frantic schedule. And every single thing on the vacation just worked out. From the excursions we had planned to the restaurants I picked to eat at. Yeah, I was super impressed with both the Greek and Turkish people in terms of friendliness, politeness, professionalism, like everything. I was blown away with the culture.
Very cool.
So anyway, unless you have questions, I'll leave it there.
All right.
I know there is just an insane amount of history in Istanbul, formerly Constantinople, and after learning about so much of it, it's on the short list of places that I would like to see. It sounds like a really cool place. Did you do any history stuff, or was it mostly modern stuff that you did there? I was just curious.
We spent one entire day doing what's called a whistle stop tour, which is seeing everything that there is to see in the old historic portion of Istanbul, the Blue Mosque, Hagia Sophia, the Topkapı Palace, which is where the sultans lived for 300 years. Mm-hmm. There's a cistern underground, which is amazing. The market, we ferry ride down the Bosphorus Strait. So yeah, we did all of that. So I would call that old.
Yeah.
And then the next day we did a 6.5 hour walking food tour of both sides, i.e. continents of Istanbul, because it's split between Europe and Asia, with the strait in between it. So 6.5 hours of nothing but the best, most interesting food you can imagine.
That sounds amazing. I would really enjoy that. How did it, was it like, I mean, it's an insanely big city, but did it feel super crowded? Did you feel asses and elbows, or was it, like, could you walk around?
You could definitely walk around. You'd have no problems. Now, I hate people and I hate crowds.
Yeah.
So, like, we went to a square in the morning. Life was great. We ended up passing back through that square again at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm like, we need to leave.
Mm-hmm.
It was not like Tokyo assholes and elbows. If you can kind of picture, the crowds thronging like the one square in Tokyo. It was nowhere near that crowded. But I just don't like groups of people at all.
Yeah. I saw one of my I don't know why it popped up in a feed, but it was a tourism commercial for Oslo, and it was called, the name of the video was, somebody posted on it, it's just like best tourism video ever, and it was a guy who was just really, really bored, and the whole thing is just like, I don't know why anyone would ever come here. It was like and it was his tone the whole time. He goes, I've been living here my whole life. You can just do anything in this city. Like, look at this. I'm in a Michelin 4-star restaurant. I just walked in. There's nothing exclusive about this place. He's like, walks down. He's like, look at this park. I think they spent 4 million euros on this park. I think the prime minister's over there. And look, there's only like 5 people here. And so the whole point of it was just that the place is like really quiet, and there's not a lot of people, and it's not exclusive. And so, and the whole point, of course, was driving that home by this guy walking around to all these amazing looking places.
Just like no waiting, no traffic,
and just
no
like,
people.
and it's like there's no exclusivity.
Just peaceful.
And he was talking about just like, how could I feel like I'm in a metropolitan center if there's no line anywhere? Like, how could I feel as if I'm seeing something special? And he walks up to a Vincent van Gogh painting. He goes like, no one's even here to see this. How do I even know if this is good? And he walks away from it. Like, and it just, I loved it. It was wonderful. But it was speaking directly to my soul of, please let me go to a place where I can do something fun, where I'm like one of 5 people in the room. That's what I want. I just cannot stand that kind of density of people. Ugh, it drives me crazy. But, so that's the only thing I got to know about a city, is if somebody goes there and says it's great, I got to go, yeah, but could you go there and like not see if you close your eyes, could you imagine you were there by yourself? Because if that's what you experience, then I'm going. That's awesome. But if you're surrounded by people all the time, it would bother me.
Fair enough.
Alrighty, are you guys ready for Mojo World?
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Maybe.
Let's do it. Alright, so this week we have Val Kilmer movies. Aaron obviously gets to go first because he's back from vacation, and then it will be Parker.
Okay, Parker. I would like in about 4 seconds to hear a high-pitched squeal.
Okay.
Tombstone.
That's good. You did it.
That was on my list.
You could be my Huckleberry. Yeah, that's a good one. I like it a lot. Okay, so
I know you did.
It was definitely on my list. I have to cross it off, and I don't get this one. There's so many amazing ones in here. I'm not going to be a real turd for Brandon. I'm sure he's going to take one of them off my list, but I'm not going to be that guy. Because I feel like you deserve this one every time. Because I think...
I already typed it.
I know. Because I think you're going to give me Hot Fuzz every time, because that's important to me, so I'm going to let you have this one every time. This is your Hot Fuzz. I'm not going to take it. I'll let you
really like Hot Fuzz, but you like Hot Fuzz an unhealthy amount.
Yeah, I know. So I'm going to take, for my first one, I'm going to choose Top Gun Maverick, the new Top Gun. I really, really, really like it.
All right, good pick. I'm obviously going with MacGruber as my number one pick. However, after MacGruber, we've already cut pretty deep to the bone. So let me think.
See, I still have so much flesh left.
There's a lot. I mean, I have my ace in the hole that I was going to save for my third pick, but you guys took 2 off my list already. I'm going to take Willow, which is probably going to sink my list, but...
Do you like Willow? It's not a bad
Willow movie. Is a fun movie.
Yeah.
And he's the Mad Mardigan, so like, how could you not pick it? All right, Parker, you're up.
I'm going to go with my favorite lead starring role of Val Kilmer, which is The Saint. I love The Saint.
All right, Aaron, you got back-to-backs.
We're going to take the original Top Gun and Heat.
Damn, that was quick.
I've seen 4 movies. Oh, we're done.
I was going to say, it's like, I bet nobody took yours, and you're just like, I'm just going to read the list. All right, Parker, what's your final pick?
My last one is really, really close between 2 movies. I'm going to go with one of his comedies, Top Secret. I love me some Top Secret. One of the original, like, spoof movies. It's really out there. Contemporary of Airplane and that sort. I love.
I'm trying to remember the name of this movie that I'm sure he's in. Ah, there it is. Kiss, Kiss, Bang, Bang.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't seen it in a long time, but... I don't know why. Every time I was trying to think of the name of it, freaking Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas keep coming in my head. And I don't know why. I was like, that's not it. I was like, that's not even simple. Well, I've never seen Fear and Loathing.
Yeah.
But I don't know why. It just kept going in my head. And now I realize what it was. Is the person that like showed me the movie. Because, the way you used to watch movies, you'd go over to somebody's house, you'd watch a movie together. And the guy who showed me that was his favorite movie, is Fear and Loathing. And that's why it was crossed in my brain. Anyway.
I have to say this one. It was the one I was about to say. Although you guys got everything off of my list, my only incredibly honorable mention is The Ghost in the Darkness.
I've never seen that either.
Oh, man. I think everybody should see that movie. It is a great, great movie. And I decided for the variety's sake to pick a comedy, but The Ghost in the Darkness is so good. It is a very quiet, intense movie. It's a suspense movie, but the antagonist is one of the most just scary. Like, I'm going to look this up. Whoever wrote that movie and designed the antagonist for this movie, are you familiar with the concept of this movie, Aaron?
No. So
The Ghost in the Darkness is based upon a true story and about two man-eating lions that halted production of the Transcontinental Railroad across Africa. The production of the Transcontinental Railroad came to an ass-grinding halt because these two man-eating lions were killing people. And it took like a concerted effort of multiple hunters, like bounty hunters of animals, to come in and get these cats. And it was just... the two cats still exist, like their stuffed remains still exist in a museum. And it's absolutely... Now, of course, the story is a embellishment, right? But
Michael Douglas and Val Kilmer.
Yeah. But yeah, it is one of the scariest movies I've ever seen because it feels too real. Like, they do a really good job of being just like, these two lions are terrifying. Like, absolutely terrifying. But not in the way like a shark movie, is terrifying. It's not like that. It's like, these things probably existed exactly as they did in the movie, and that is scary as balls. I know it's dramatic, dramatized, but man, oh man, these two things just are scary as shit. I love that movie. When I was a kid, I thought this movie was like the pinnacle of horror achievement, even though I know it's not like, it's not prototypical horror. It's suspense, but it's very...
Yeah. I apparently really need to watch True Romance, because like the last 5 categories we've done, True Romance has been on the list of options, and I haven't been able to pick it because I haven't seen it.
It's Christian Slater. I have seen this movie. I used to have a huge crush on Patricia Arquette, who is also in The Saint.
Alrighty. I'm going to grab some water real quick, and then I'll be good to go if you guys are ready.
Aaron, I have one more Blood Bowl question for you.
Sure.
Sometimes when I get home from a big event, I am the opposite of satiated. I just want to play more of that game, like instantly. How do you feel right now about Blood Bowl? Are you excited to pick up the dice for something else, or you're like, no, more Blood Bowl now, please?
I would definitely like to play some more Blood Bowl. In fact, I might drive to Detroit next weekend to play in a tournament. It's an 11-hour drive. I probably won't. If any one person would make it with me, I'd go in a heartbeat. But 11 hours by myself makes me want to shoot myself. So,
Is it going to be? Are they going to use like a cool format for you, or is it?
Yeah, it's a cool format. It's a great tournament. It's one of the guys that was on our team. He puts it on. So I was trying to go around and support all the guys in the team, go to their tournaments, whether it's at Colorado or Utah or Texas, Michigan, Florida.
Utah is quite far.
Yep.
Are they going to come to your tournament?
Nope.